Välkommen allesammans! Quick video here. I did a video on it a while back about what the actual sources say about this Norse pagan tradition. We had a baptizing ritual even before Christianity came into Scandinavia, and it was called Vatni Ausinn, or sprinkle with water in Old Norse. And it was probably much older than Christianity. The problem is, we know basically nothing about it. It's mentioned dozens, if not hundreds of times in the Old Norse sources, sagas, but all they say is the child was named and sprinkled with water, Vatni Ausinn. But one of my Patreon members, and now a good friend from Sweden, Daniel, and his wife gave birth after trying for many years to have a child now, and now they have a great healthy daughter, so congratulations Daniel all in the comments below, but they are looking to baptize their daughter in the traditional Norse way, and I'm sure there's a lot of the rest of you who have kids or are planning to have kids on the way that would maybe like to do this too. So I did a little bit more research and came across some things that we can do to recreate this ritual the way it would have been done in pagan times. First, what Vatni Ausinn really was, it was an initiation ritual. The baby was welcomed into society. After the child was baptized and given a name, it could no longer be legally exposed and discarded. Now what that was, it was one of the two most important pagan practices that the Icelanders needed to be allowed to uphold after Christianity came in as law. If a baby was disfigured or ill or deformed or something that made it that it was not going to have a good life at the time, they would leave that baby out in the wild to die and let that soul pass back into the spirit world and give it another chance to come back reborn into a healthy body and have a good life. We can't do this today, of course, and we shouldn't either because we have much better medical care than they did back then, so that's not an option. But back in the Viking Age and before, this was done sometimes, but if all was well with the baby, it would be blessed with this Vatni Ausinn ceremony, and it would be named and sprinkled with water. Now, this was done sometimes right away after the child was born, and sometimes a couple weeks later. So I'm not a fan of all this modern hospital and birth certificates and all that crap, basically forcing you to have the baby's name decided already before it's even born. It's like, no, hold on a sec, I'll name my baby whenever the hell I want it, okay? So let's let it be born first, and then we can kind of understand what it is, and that's when we can see what name is going to fit the best. That's what was done in pagan times. Sometimes years into a person's life they got their real name, age 7 in some cultures at certain times in history, and they were just kind of given a nickname first, or they were given a nickname at the age of 7. Ideally, they do this because of trying to figure out which one of your ancestors' spirits was reincarnated into this baby, as was done in the tale of Olav, for example, or even Thor saga. I did videos on both of those that you can find in the links below. So yeah, I'm a believer in waiting a bit after the child's birth and then naming the baby at its Vatni Ausinn ceremony. So you name the baby, they would most likely be blessing it with a Thor's hammer, or at least a stone in the shape of a hammer, as was done in weddings too. Like all you know from the tale of Thor in his wedding dress, the perfect example of that there. Now this could be, if you've watched my video on Thor, this could be granting the baby its life force and its aura and its heartbeat. This is what Mjolnir represents, in my opinion. It's not confirmed, but me and a lot of others believe that there is plenty of evidence to make this the most likely option as to what Mjolnir represented and what its purpose really was. So this time might be a good time to give your baby a nice Mjolnir here, or some other gift. In the Norse sources, it's usually a ring or a sword that would have been dug up from the grave of the ancestor, something like that. And of course you could raise, say, maybe a big Thor's hammer and say some sort of prayer. This is what I'm writing my book on, actually, prayers that we have recorded. We don't have anything that would fit into a Vatni Ausin ceremony, at least we don't have records of it, but it would probably sound something like, "May Thor bless this child and grant health and happiness, heil och säl och blessadur," something like that, but your guess is as good as mine. Say whatever prayer you want. Then we get to the actual sprinkling of the baby. Ideally, this would be done by a Godi or a Gigya, the religious leader at the time, but those are hard to come by today, so we may have to do it ourselves. It would for sure be blessed with water from a sacred source. Now, what makes it a sacred source? Well, if you're in Scandinavia, you probably don't have to go so far. Just about anywhere you will find somewhere near your town, or even if you're in the middle of the city, you'll find a burial ground nearby or a holy place that's near a body of water. Any of those are fine. If not, if you can't find water from those recognized sacred places that we know were, you can use wells or natural springs or waterfalls. Those are the best that we have many sources for actually were viewed as sacred place and positive spirits to be living in those places. You can also use water from a lake or a river. Some of those are regarded as sacred too. You just have to be careful. If you do it from a lake, make sure the water is clean and pure, or a natural lake with good energy. But it's better to use water from a fresh running river just for, cleanliness reasons. I would, if you're going to do a river, I would just suggest to do it from a river flowing from the south, as the south is a direction associated with the sun and light and life and positive things. East or west flowing rivers are okay, but don't use water flowing from the north, as that is the direction associated with death and darkness in both the Sami and the Scandinavian folk tradition, so definitely don't use water flowing from the north. Then we get to how do we sprinkle the water. This is the main, aspect of this ceremony, sprinkling the water, that's what it is. And that's the hard part, and it took me quite a lot of research. I had to look into this quite a bit, but I found something. In the Russian folk tradition, actually, they have a very similar practice. Mugwort has long been known in the East as a sacred, mysterious, unnamed herb that also goes by the name of Zabitko, the herb of forgetfulness. Funny enough, one folk tale speaks about a girl who got these magic abilities to be able to hear and speak the language of plants. But if she spoke the words, the hidden secret name of mugwort, which was Chernobyl, actually, she lost all of her abilities, hence the name, the herb of forgetfulness. So mugwort in the Russian tradition has always been known as the nameless herb due to this, and one tradition that they call kupala, which means just bathe or shower, and that's where they gathered mugwort on the midsummer, sprinkled water on the baby or person that was to be blessed. Here we go. In my opinion, that's damn near 100% certain that it was mugwort, and this is how the ritual of Vatni Ausin was done due to the similarities. Mugwort in the Norse world too, but all over Europe has been used to ward off evil spirits and disease, so it would be a perfect thing to bless a newborn child coming into the world. So I'm willing to bet that the Norse used this too, and this was this same ritual. So pick some mugworts, preferably harvested on the midsummer, which is coming up, and that was done everywhere else in Europe too, like I said. Dip it in the sacred water source to be used, and sprinkle it 9 times over the baby. And of course, you already know everything in the Norse beliefs and tradition is 9 times. So that's about it. That's all I've got, at least. Like I said, the exact ritual is lost, but we can come up with some very good ideas of how it was done, and maybe even compare it to other pagan baptisms around the world. I know certain Hindu groups do similar rituals like this, but how about you guys? Do you know of any other baptisms or naming ceremonies done by your people? Let us know in the comments. That's why I make these videos. It's so we can all put our heads together and knowledge from different parts of the world and combine it to really enable us to figure out the lost beliefs and practices of our ancestors. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a try. Let us know if you're expecting any children. I hope I will be soon too, in not too many years. But yeah, that's all I have to say for today. Vi ses nästa gång.